welcome back to the Villa podcast. Immediately after Aston Villa have just drawn 0-0 to Sheffield United. It's weird not to be at the ground, but I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. How are you doing, Dan?
Yeah, it's good to be with you so soon after a game, mate. I'd like to say when emotions were still raw, but not too much that, as I'm sure we'll get into, not too much emotionally, coming out of that one. I think regardless of the score, it was a bit of a sterile affair. Are you a crowd noise man? How do you watch the games?
No,
I'm not either.
I watched a handful of Bundesliga games with the crowd noise to prepare for this earlier on in the week, and I'm not a fan whatsoever. So no. I was watching, I was listening with the sounds of Dean Smith telling Keenan Davis, well, good fucking job, Keenan, every time he hurt John Egan. So that's what I'm here for. I love hearing it raw. It's not so often you get to hear stuff like that. So that's what I'm here for, mate.
No, absolutely, yeah. I'm not a crowd. I think we're probably in the minority there. Actually, I've seen certainly amongst my group of mates and stuff they're all very much pro crowd noise. I'm not a fan of it myself. I mean, you would have missed it in the game then, but I think they worked with EA and used FIFA 20's crowd noises. And I think that's where they get them from. And so whenever the ball hits the side netting, the crowd go absolutely mental. And there was that bit in the second half where Ender Stevens hit a cross into the side net and no one paid it. And about 3 seconds after, the crowd were like, "Oh!"
It was quite obvious before Stevens had even struck the ball that it was going to hit the side netting as well. But it was a really weird experience, wasn't it, Dan? It was absolutely so strange.
Yeah, but it's great to see football back, mate. Although for the neutrals, it probably wasn't the game that they wanted to see, and I'm sure that the one that is about to start in 4 minutes' time as we record is going to be the one that all the eyes are going to be on. But no, for us, I think it was listening to Ian Taylor and stuff before the game, friend of the podcast, obviously.
Shout out to
Ian. He was saying that it was good for the Villa boys to have had a break and to have just had that spell where. We could kind of recuperate, and Dean could hold those sessions with players, and then we could iron out the little issues. I don't know if you saw in the build-up to the game, John McGinn revealed that there was a good proportion of the season where Douglas Luiz just couldn't understand him. And so John was calling man on, and Douglas. And whilst I'm slightly concerned that it's taken us until June to address that, it's these kinks that have been ironed out, and that's that Leicester game was you were there, I believe, weren't you, mate?
I was there 100 days ago.
You were there, of course, yeah. And yeah, it was just a really heavy experience, and with the rain and mistake and everything, and then just the collapse that we experienced in the second half. It was a real low point in the season, I think. And so just to come away and, to have that experience and kind of detach from it, to come into this in a new environment, perhaps benefited the boys. And, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say on the performance and everything like that. But I think the first thing to address is that I think the lads handled the entire experience pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important when we look at this game to look at it in isolation. There was so much made of it from Villa fans, from the both of us as well before the game, how this was a must-win game. But we've got to understand it's our first game back. And I think looking at the teams who've played today, obviously City and Arsenal are going to kick off as well. I think, us along with Sheffield United are really going to benefit from having playing this game in hand, because it's an extra 90 minutes that you can get up to match speed. I think... as we kind of discussed briefly before we hopped on the pod, you weren't feeling too optimistic. I, on the other hand, was. I'm always the optimist. But I think in isolation, this result was probably the best thing that could have came out of it, especially with everything that's gone on in the game in terms of the Sheffield United goal not being given, with the failure with goal line technology and VAR not interfering. Villa were really, really good in this game. And I'd say good value for the draw. I've got some stats up here, courtesy of BBC Sports. I find it shocking to believe that Villa only had 45% of the ball throughout this game, Dan, because we seem to dominate possession in large spells throughout the game. 14 shots, 6 of which were on target, which compares to Sheffield United's 5 and only 1 on target. I'm not sure if that includes the goal that wasn't given. 12 corners to Sheffield United's 4. with 11 fouls for Villa and 14 from Sheffield United, which is absolutely to be expected from a Chris Wilde side. Looking at this game, I thought, we played really well. We set the tempo early on, and obviously Sheffield United grew into the game. That is absolutely to be expected. But I think it's an absolute credit to Dean and the lads for going out and putting in a performance like that, and also for not just totally caving in on themselves after the incident that did happen as well, because it could have very easily sent Villa toppling the other way, and could have been very good motivation for Sheffield United to kick on. That wasn't the case, but overall, I think it was a really solid performance, and we're unlucky, but also lucky to not come away with the win.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really, I thought the game itself just sort of reflected the surroundings in which it was played in. Not a whole lot of action. Neither goalkeeper really had too much to do. If we kind of start analysing from the start, I thought Sheffield United started, and I'm talking very early stages, like the first few minutes, I thought Sheffield United were on top. But as the sort of 10th, 15th minute came, we sort of grew into the game. I liked a lot of what Keenan was offering us. I think it took a long time for Jack to get into the game. I think he was looking a little bit rusty, and that sort of link-up play and the way he's just effortlessly able to tie the players around him into the game and get them involved wasn't quite there. A few dribbles didn't come off, that sort of thing. I think we saw there was a couple of players that I was slightly disappointed with. I thought Mings, I thought whilst in pure defensive actions, I thought he was pretty solid, but he gave the ball away a few too many times for my liking. But it was an interesting lineup to start with, mate. And this is sort of, and despite, I wasn't the biggest fan of it personally. Although, as I said, I thought Davis started pretty well. I thought in this game where, as you said, it was such a must-win game, I thought it was unusual that we didn't go with the proven goal scorer in the squad. Though Keenan did have a good game, and I'd say despite what happened, Dean Henderson was probably the more tested goalkeeper out of the two, largely down to what Keenan was able to put at him.
Absolutely. Keenan, for me, I didn't expect Keenan to start. Avid listeners of the podcast will know that me and Dan absolutely love Keenan Davis, Keenan Van Nistelrooy. Mm-hmm. And for me, he led the line so well. And talking to a few friends just before the game, non-Villa supporting friends, going, Keenan Davis up front, brilliant, not going to score today, are you? And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. There's more to his game than goals. There's hold-up play. And I think, he's demonstrating these skills that are, way beyond his sort of age. He's come on so much, not only in the past year, but even in the past 3 months in the lockdown. I think Keenan has made a few cameos in the season with that in the league and the League Cup, but he led the line really well and really give the Sheffield United back three something to think about. And I think, and that's why he started. I think everyone expected Samatta to start. Keenan's a very unique player in the sense that he's quick, he's strong, and his hold-up play is really good. There's not many strikers that have all of them abilities. Unfortunately for Keenan, he's not got that killer instinct in terms of finding the back of the net, which I think it will come. We've just got to give that time. But for me, Keenan Davis give John Egan such a difficult time for the 70-odd minutes he was on the pitch, especially early on. It was a very mature performance from Keenan. And I know I'm one of Keenan Davis' biggest fans, so obviously there's going to be a hint of bias towards that. But I really do think he led the line really well, justifying the contract extension as well. Obviously, signed on for an extra year a few months back, which is really good to see. But no, it was an orthodox lineup. Interestingly, picking up what you said about a few weak links, for me, Ezri Konsa wasn't particularly great, but we've got to cut him some slack. He's not a right back. I know he's played there a few times before, but it wasn't a very good performance. And Courtney, my man, with an absolute suicide ball in that second half, give it to McBurney, I think it was, right in front of the box, and you absolutely can't be doing that. Thankfully, nothing came from that. But that's the kind of mistake that, in 2 or 3 weeks' time, probably relegates us.
Yeah, for sure. I think, the lineup was an interesting one, mate. I think I was a little bit sceptical of the midfield because I worried just, obviously at the time with the way that Sheffield United play, you can be playing against a 5-man midfield there. And I thought with the likes of Douglas and Connor, obviously McGinn totally juxtaposes that. And I thought he did, considering that was his first game in 7 months. We didn't really expect him to start. We were talking about it this morning, and we were kind of like, look, he's not played a game in 6-7 months. It's going to be a lot to throw him into this right in at the deep end and expect him to tie, together a midfield, which I'd say has probably been the weakest aspect of the team. This season is just how easily teams can bypass that midfield, and I think it's really exposed the problems that we have defensively. It's just because of the amount of pressure that the midfield puts on them by not, necessarily stopping the attacks that come their way. And so I was a little bit worried, and I was like, we've all seen what Connor and Douglas, don't offer us defensively this season. And shout out to John, because he really came in.
He proved us wrong.
Absolutely.
I think we were the only 2 Villa fans on Twitter saying McGinn wouldn't start.
I was there like, oh, come on, guys, get your hose down. But no, he didn't, and he did a superb job of just tying that together, and tested Dean Henderson. In the second half into making, it was an acrobat one for the cameras. Potentially, it was a nice height for Dean, but it's the lineup was interesting. Ezri, I can understand now, having watched the game, why we started Keenan, because I think we weren't necessarily able to play. I was about to say we weren't able to play through the thirds as well as we have done this season, but
I'd say we did, to be fair.
I think. We were kind of expecting, I think, a lot of it to just be bypassed and to sort of go back to a long ball. And I think we saw when Keenan came off and we were playing those balls up towards Samagol, that he just wasn't able to contest with those centre-backs. And that's no detriment to Samagol. I mean, those 3 centre-backs. It's not. I mean, we saw when he just bounced off Chris Basham's shoulder. That's not where he's supposed to be played. But no, Keenan did a good job of that. Ezri at right back, I still don't understand, especially when we have a right back on the bench in Elmo. I mean, Elmo, when he came on, to be fair, didn't look the sharpest, but I'm not sure Elmo's looked the sharpest since he was at Hull. And so I think, I think a weird team selection, but I thought we grew into the game nicely. I thought half-time came at a good time for us because we were fading in the game. And I think now is probably a good time to talk about the ghost goal and the bizarre incident that was that mistake from, I say mistake from Orjan. Keenan, funnily enough.
Keenan,
Yeah.
It was, watching it, first of all, I think it was a stupid foul to give away in the first place. But it's in a relatively, danger-free zone, you would think. You wouldn't expect, not all teams would throw everyone up for that kind of free kick. That's generally a free kick that would be taken short, and you're trying to get the play started. It was a brilliant delivery. I can't remember who put the ball in now, but I remember watching it and thinking, oh my God, we have got Championship Nyland back. This is not good. Obviously, the different angles did show that Keenan Davis pushed the ball over the line, and there's no hiding it. There's absolutely no hiding it. VAR, obviously the problem is that the goal line technology system didn't work. But the bigger problem is that VAR didn't recognise that and award the goal. A lot of people were texting me throughout the game being like, the refs had a stinker. The ball didn't look like it had gone over the line, in fairness, until you see it from the different angles. And you can tell it's obviously over the line. I'm not saying it didn't look like, but I can understand why Michael Oliver wouldn't give it. The technology didn't tell him the ball had crossed the line. So he's been getting a lot of unfair criticism, Michael Oliver. When again, we're here, Dan. We've had VAR for how long? And it's the first game back and we're still having issues with it, Dan.
Yeah, it's nuts, mate. It's nuts. I don't know what's gone on. It's so...
Really, Dan? You don't know what's gone on?
I think...
It looked like the ball crossed the line, Dan.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, mate, to say the least. And I think the one thing I will say is there's loads of debate. You can debate VAR until the sun goes down. But goal line technology, since it's come in, has been pretty flawless on the whole. I think
it's been 99% accurate.
Yeah. unanimously.
The 1% is not been accurate.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think it's been absolutely. I think it's been a great addition to the game. I think it's really improved it. I think no matter where you stand on technology's involvement with football, I think we can all agree that if the ball crosses the line, you deserve to be given a goal.
Absolutely.
And Sheffield United do, man. And Oyan knew, man. I don't for everyone.
Yeah.
I implore you to go and look at the picture that is currently set as my profile picture on Twitter, because it just shows Oyan Neuer sat in the goal, cradling the ball, clearly behind the post, and his face is just white as a ghost because he knows.
That wasn't Oyan Neuer. If it was Oyan Neuer, it wouldn't have gone in, Dan.
No, absolutely not. And I was worrying, mate, because I thought my reputation on this podcast had gone down the drain, because I've been Oyan Nyland FC for a good amount of time now, and I was like, he's been doing bits, got us to Wembley. I thought we were out of the dark. I thought we're out of the woods now, Oyan. Everyone's nailed on number one. You're starting games. I saw this. I was like, oh God. But no, it's unfortunate for him. It's unfortunate because Keenan does give him a little sort of chest over the line. But no, what's gone on is beyond me. And VAR should have intervened, because obviously Oyan just kind of came up the box with the ball and played on, and until the ball then goes out of play, it's the same phase of players that we're talking about on where VAR can still intervene. And I think you got to give a lot of credit to Chris Wilder, I think, in all this, because there was no Neil Warnock style stare off with the referees at the end of the game. We didn't see him ranting and raving at the officials, and you made the good point in that it's no longer the referee's job to spot these things. The referee handles everything that goes on in the game, but in terms of balls crossing the goal line, that's not the referee's jurisdiction anymore. It's not the liner's jurisdiction. That is, the reason that we've got goal line technology implemented is so referees don't have to make those calls. It's not in their repertoire anymore to make those decisions. And I think Wilder's perhaps recognised that, in that, Michael Oliver, if his watch doesn't buzz, and apparently he did it half-time. I've seen a few. I
heard that, yeah.
But if Michael Oliver's watch doesn't buzz, then he doesn't, he's in every right, he trusts the technology, as we all did at the time until we saw the replays. It wasn't supposed to be a goal.
No, and I've seen a few things on Twitter about it. Well, a few. That's understatement of the year. And I've received so many text messages about that. But at the end of the day, last season, Billy Sharp kicks the ball out of Oyan Nyland's hands, and the goal is given. And earlier on in the season, Henry Lansbury scores. Kevin Friend rules it out for a Jack Grealish dive, which is ludicrous. I'm going to try and stay quiet on this situation because it should have absolutely been a goal, but it swings and roundabouts with VAR. And when they said, they said at the time, when we've had all of these VAR decisions go against us, one day they'll come in your favour. And I guess this is the day. So, we're here on this podcast and talking about a 0-0 draw instead of a 1-0 loss. So I think that's all that should be said about VAR. But if we touch on a point that you mentioned earlier about Jack Grealish going into the game, he certainly looked much better in the second half, didn't he, Dan?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to reference that one pass he made to Anwar, who then squared it to Keenan, and Keenan's studs just weren't quite long enough. But that ball was the first kind of flash of Jack that we'd seen. He looked a little bit sluggish. I'm going to get you to talk on the haircut in a second. But that was the first time that we saw it come inside, and I think we need to see him back in the middle. I think the time has come now where I want to see Anwar playing off the left again. Yeah. I thought when Trezeguet came on, in fairness, I thought he looked pretty lively. He didn't. The game was very much done and dusted. I think we all knew by about 70 minutes that was going to be a 0-0. I think if at that stage of the game, I think the players looked tired. I think if you'd offered both teams a chance to walk off the pitch there and then and take a 0-0, both probably would have taken it.
Absolutely.
But I thought when Trez came on, he looked pretty lively. Considering I don't think any of the subs really made a tremendous impact, but I thought Trezeguet did all right. There's a couple of times where he made nice work of Ender Stevens and got into a couple of dangerous positions here and there. And so I would like to see Anwar playing off the left again, because when you and I watched the playoff final a few weeks ago, mate, it reminded me of how good Anwar was on the day. When he's in his bag and he's playing off that left wing, cutting in on that right foot, he's dynamite. He really is. And I think Jack playing that kind of ball to Anwar, funnily enough, from that kind of centre mid position. I just want to see him and John linking back up again. And I think that there might be something in that. But no, he grew into it. But the hair.
The hair. We've got to talk about it. And do you know what? We've seen him a few weeks ago. We spoke about it on the podcast. The Barnets were terrible. Jack looked homeless. He's had a shave since. He knew he's possibly seen Laura Woods on Sky, so he had to look his best.
Brush up.
But, you know, I think the haircut is actually, well, it's certainly gone down well in my flat. Charlotte seemed to enjoy it.
I liked it.
I'm neither massively against it or massively for it. As long as he scores goals, he can have his hair however he likes. Samagol, however, did you see the little fades he had? I mean, now that's fresh, man. It's subtle, fresh.
You can tell he's been spending time in inner city Birmingham, can't you? It's rubbing off on Samagol, definitely.
Absolutely. But you know, to be honest, Dan, I think that's. I've not really got much else I can say on that game. You know, I think, you know, a draw is. I don't want to say a fair result because, let's be honest, it wasn't. But Villa put in a very good performance, and I think it sets us up nicely, as I said earlier, on for Chelsea on the weekend on Sunday again at Villa Park. It's been nice to have another 90-minute game at Villa Park for the players to get used to it. Ideally, a win would have been, best case scenario to drag us out of the bottom three. We're still currently in 19th place. Coming into this game against Chelsea, I do think we probably have the upper hand, as I've said, because the players have all got anywhere between 70 or 90 minutes in the tank, haven't they?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the more experience that you can get in such a sterile environment, the better. I wouldn't say the players took to it quite well. I'm just going to reference that, and I thought the boys did a good job of that. But it's going to be a lot sterner test next time out. That's for sure. Chelsea, it's been a long time coming, but their last result was a 2-0 win against Liverpool in the FA Cup. And it's fair to say that Chelsea's lockdown, on the whole, has been pretty good.
Pretty eventful as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some of the signings that they've been making, it's a good time to be a Chelsea fan right now. And they could be a serious side next season. They've obviously, that Werner deal is pending. I don't think he's going to play for Leipzig in the Champions League, so he can get that deal over the line. They've confirmed, obviously, I think on the 1st of June that Hakim Ziyech has now signed for the club. And so Chelsea are going to come to this really feeling like, that they're a team to beat. Their confidence is going to be really high. There's a lot of optimism around the club at the moment. And they're certainly going to be coming, regardless of the fact that we've played an extra game. I think Chelsea are going to be looking at that game we've just played and thinking that we're there for the taking with the quality that they have.
Absolutely.
It was a funny game at Stamford Bridge, wasn't it, earlier on in the season, because we lost. But on the whole, I wasn't actually too dissatisfied with the performance. Mason Mount scored what was a good goal. Tammy scored as well.
Yeah, a cross in the box, which is to be expected with someone like Tammy. But no, we didn't really play that badly in that game, I don't think. I don't think as well we can really use that game as much of a reference point. I don't really think we can use the Sheffield United game really as a reference point. I think, if anything, it's a good indication for the fitness levels, as I keep repeating. I guess that's the only thing we can go off, isn't it? How sharp they're looking. But, it's going to be a very interesting game. Chelsea, they've still very much got a lot to play for. They're in 4th place. They've not yet secured European football in the Champions League, at least that is, just yet. So they're going to be looking at Villa as certainly an easy 3 points on the road, I'd say. So hopefully we can see Dean get back to winning ways against Frank Lampard. If you look at the Chelsea, they're kind of unpredictable in how they line up. Lampard likes to keep it fresh. But if I'm looking at a few players who I think may start, I'm looking at Fikayo Tomori, your Mason Mounts, and on Tomori, I think that a player like that lends Keenan Davis another start. I'd say Tomori really struggled against Abraham last season in the Championship every time he played against him. and whilst Tomori looks to be a very good prospect, doesn't really know how to deal with the quick and stronger centre forwards. So it'll be interesting to see how the two teams line up, I guess, Dan.
Yeah, I think, I saw on Twitter, I was having a look earlier in the week, Chelsea were handed a bit of a boost. I think it was Kante, Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic were all confirmed fit for the game. We're going to see the ultimate battles of the engines in midfield between John Iniesta and N'Golo Kante. I mean, those two are just going to run each other off the park. That is going to be a spectacle all in itself. But no, I think we're going to see... I like a lot about Chelsea. I don't think Pedro is going to be involved because I think he's got a move to Roma in the offing, and I think he's going to be. I don't think we're going to see too much of him this season, though I'm fairly sure Chelsea fans and the one that I know are pretty happy about that. But yeah, the likes of Hudson-Odoi, who I think had the coronavirus.
I think possibly. I know
earlier on.
He got. He did actually. He was one of the first players to contract it, didn't he?
I think
and then he recovered from it from like 2 days later. I remember he posted that video. Yeah, he was like, "I'm fine."
So it's gonna be interesting. But no, I mean, look, it's really hard to say, and it's really hard to predict these games when you haven't seen the teams involved. I think once we're kind of 2 or 3 match days into the season, and you can kind of see how teams fare during this, because it can really throw form out the window, this experience, and it's like a completely new season start, and you can't really judge teams too much. I mean, you saw how evenly, I mean, dare I say, if we played the game we just played against Sheffield United 3 months ago, it would have been a very different park, and I don't think we would have matched up with them so evenly. And I think that they're kind of 7th, I think 6th, 7th, win 19th, and we matched them pretty evenly all over the park, and so that's just a perfect demonstration of how hard these games are to call. And so Chelsea are going to be the favourites. I think they're going to be coming to Villa Park expecting to win, as I said, but you just never know, do you?
No, it's a really hard one, and these previews will only get easier as the season kind of kicks on. I don't really know what else to say on that, Dan. I'm just glad that Villa didn't lose, and I'm very much looking forward to Sunday, to be honest. It's nice to have the football back. Obviously, the Man City game versus Arsenal is underway now. We're not quite sure on what the score is there, but it'd be nice to go and catch the end of that after this game. After game podcast, see, it's all merging into one. It's all one. But I guess a benefit of this new tournament-esque approach to the Premier League in terms of the frequency is that you're going to get more podcasts from me and Dan on a more frequent basis.
For sure.
Which is good.
Sure.
Because,
that's what everyone wants, isn't it?
Do. It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I believe Dom was doing his B6 Booth live stream. So if you check that out and enjoyed the new graphics, they were made by me. So if you enjoyed that, let us know and we can see if we can work some more stuff into it. But yeah, we should be back with a new podcast Sunday evening. Any final words from yourself, Dan?
Just a few things to say. First of all, love. It was tributes aplenty at the start of the game to Ron
Absolutely.
Smith and to the Black Lives Matter movement, and I thought both of them were really apt. I thought the whole name thing on the back of the shirts was really cool, and I think shout out to Sky and the Premier League for making those, because in previous years we've kind of seen they did the warm-up t-shirts, obviously, because that is any sporting organisation. Whenever there's a humanitarian crisis, they love getting the t-shirts out.
Of course.
So we saw those, but I thought the names and the kneeling that I think the officials did, both backroom staff, everyone in the ground, I think took the knee, that was playing in that game, and that was really cool to see. And then last of all, I just want to, on air, give you, my man, a shout out for your Radio 1 appearance today. We were a little bit of a mix-up. I was expecting it. I was so excited for it to be last week, but you kept me waiting. Mate. The anticipation was high, but it came through, man. It came through. So big well done to you, man. The pod's been pretty good, and I tell you what, we're not half putting ourselves about, are we?
Thanks, man. Yeah, and on that, you've been on AFTV fame Claude's live stream, Claude and the Bamsters, is it? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that is. I don't know what that means, but I'm happy to be a part of it.
Absolutely. I watched the whole stream. I forgot it was live. I've got to be honest, Dan, but I watched it the next day, and it was great to see you represent Villa in such a way. It was a really entertaining stream as well. They all seem like really good guys, and apart from Quill's internet, it was an absolutely solid stream. So I'm sure you're going to see Dan's face on that again. So we'll be sure to tweet that out. Dan killing it as always. Got to get the pod in different places. So that
keep plugging, man.
Doing our work, man. So I guess that's a good note to end on. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the game and enjoyed the podcast. If you did, comment your thoughts below and subscribe for more. And we will be back with you on Sunday evening for another podcast. So up the Villa.
Chester's essential. The fulfilling this got potential. It's the main man, a hero. He's the main leader of the gang. Chester. 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 He's the main leader of the gang now.